Among the hundreds of challenges in BeamNG, only a few truly deserve the title of era-defining. They're easy to spot. These are the maps that changed how players approached the game, whether by introducing new strategies, unique and incredible skips, or simply being a notorious precision fest. One thing that unites all of them is a community that cherishes each and every new attempt. Few maps represent that spirit better than Gravel Circuit, a 1-minute loop that's been pushed by every runner who came across it. For 3 years, Hyku held the record here, until today. Rally and off-road are vital parts of BeamNG, with many different variations to explore. Each one introduces challenges and obstacles that can be overcome with tuning, skill, or a bit of luck. But among this vast and impressive collection of tracks, there is one trial that incorporates almost every aspect of the others. The good, the bad, and the tricky. Gravel Circuit has it all. This track is the epitome of simplistic design, so much so that roughly half the track is a different variation of a straight path. Other half though, non-stop turns. The main issue is 3 hairpins that are vastly different from each other. From a bird's eye view, they look simple enough, but the devil, as always, is in the details. Gravel Circuit is packed with thick foliage, deep ditches, off-camber sections and rocks perfectly hidden in the grass. All of that amplifies the difficulty tenfold, turning perfect racing lines into theory rather than reality. And even though skips and small cuts exist all over the place, every single one is a gamble, where one mistake can lead straight back to the start. The story of this track begins in 2019. The automation test track had just been introduced, and all eyes were fixed on everything it had to offer, from snow on roads near mountain peaks to trials in the valley, including Gravel Circuit. On September 13th, a player by the name Hyku posted a run that started it all, featuring one and only viable option for the rally at that time period, Hirochi's Sunburst in near-default off-road variation. In the month that followed, the track was beaten a number of times. Each new record shaved off more and more time, pushing what was possible on this track. During that time, one small skip and one big problem were uncovered. While hairpins are the main attraction of the track, there are also more notable features, like an uphill chicane that leads into a rather steep right-hander right before the turn to the finish. Slowing down is a good option, but, well, losing speed isn't a great idea either. So instead, speedrunners managed to find and introduce a drop down. It's very easy since both road to it and the drop itself flow smoothly, and it saves quite a bit of time. We are talking possible seconds, but it's far from the time waste that one issue caused. The first of 3 hairpins on this map is especially damaging to anyone not ready for it. Trying to make inside line here is exceptionally precise, and the exit is pure pain. The reason for this is the layout. This U-turn goes past 180 degrees. There are 2 options: slow down and lose time, or risk it all and get back to the start. Back then, trying to cut through the field to remove the necessary slowdown was seen as simply reckless. There are rocks, and even if you are gonna get lucky enough, stiff suspension of Sunburst is not gonna make getting back on track easy. After several months, speedrunners managed to cut the record down by almost 6 seconds. But competition only grew stronger. With updates came a new fancy drive that will change this map forever. FCV Vivace. It was tough and had vastly superior stats compared to the usual rally peaks. Speed, suspension and weight distribution, this was the upgrade needed to completely destroy any rally stage. Armed with the default setup and the willingness to try something new, Cerzari managed to obliterate the previous record, using well-known tactics and introducing one of his own, the gutter technique. While the first hairpin can easily be called the hardest on this map, the second is the most normal, but it still has its own quirks. Mainly a rather deep ditch on the inside. This isn't a gutter in the initial sense of the word, but the strategy remains the same. Drop one wheel in and hold your insane cornering speed. 2 full seconds were saved, but this pales in comparison to what was about to happen. Tuning evolution is regarded as one of the most important parts of BeamNG speedrunning, opening the way to new, incredible setups that previously were locked behind a staggering amount of weight. Rally was hit the most, with Sunburst and Vivace being on the spearhead of the exploration of this new strategy. However, among the two, VVVVVV was added much more recently and so had much better tuning potential. In fact, on the gravel circuit, this trick was used earlier, just partially. By removing fuel and saving roughly 40 kilos, runners tried to squeeze out every possible advantage. But everything changed on March 8, 2021, with Dukester 92 and his FCV setup. His tune was a nightmare fuel for any semi-capable rally marshal. No doors, no seats and no bumpers. Maximum amount of weight reduction. This gave the already powerful Vivace exactly what it needed: acceleration. After all, this map is all about getting back on track after difficult turns. Because of improved agility, Dukester managed to implement several small skips, most of which, while not performed perfectly, were able to preserve time, especially so in the case of the first one. This cut is very hard without a light frame and enough suspension travel, but it is crucial if you want to preserve speed through the first hairpin on this track. With all of this, the runner managed to save even more time, and after a year of small time improvements from other runners, managed to save nearly half a second. In the next 4 months, this map turned into a literal battlefield, with Dukester desperately trying to reclaim his crowd. Competition was fierce, and in the first 2 months the time was dropped by almost a full second. During this time, the number of small tricks on the track only grew. Intentional hits on terrain and using banking on turns to help with corners became synonymous with world record here. All of this culminated in the final showdown versus Fact, where the latter managed to squeeze out victory by using a completely different strategy. While not having huge notable features except for overall length, the first hairpin still has banking on the back and sides. They're small and rather bumpy, so using them for anything except a slight redirect will end badly for anyone foolish enough to try, but it can help the car land nearly perfect exit line. That was Fact's plan. By going as late as possible, he managed to stabilize the car and exit smoothly, while also preserving speed. This difference in approach was the key to the world record, and on August 5th, 2021, Fact posted a run that saved 2/10 and showcased that this simple track still had more potential tricks and skips waiting to be discovered. For the next several months, leaderboards were silent, up until March 10th, 2022, when a new challenger appeared: Hyku. For the past 2 years, they have already proved themselves many times over on almost every rally there is in the game. And now, gravel circuit was on the menu. Hyku decided to try their unique spin on the Vivace, maximum weight reduction. Even the spoiler was cut. On paper, getting rid of this vital part is a terrible idea. For one, nasty corners become even nastier. Basically, every corner on this track now had a run-ending potential, with even a slight mistake from the driver. In return, however, less weight, better acceleration, and slightly improved aerodynamics. Basically, Hyku decided to crush the previous record by using skill and brute force their way to the top. Their run was similar yet vastly different from Fact's. Both of them tried to use banking as a main tool to help past the nasty corner, but Hyku used it to simply redirect the car by hitting the back wheel on it. While on its own it's not as powerful as a full-on ride, this is where new tricks were to come into play. Instead of trying to stay on the road, Hyku decided to make a mad dash across the field. The reason it wasn't done before is very obvious: foliage and rocks. But now, having a very light and fast vehicle, this skip was finally truly possible. Even though driving afterwards was far from being perfectly optimized, that skip alone made Hyku take the world record and save almost half a second, barely missing a 47-second barrier. Even today, Hyku's runs still make the community buzz, but back then it was more like, oh, another one. However, with that fame came a rival. Kimorasa, a well-known off-road player with a skill set almost identical to Hyku, so much so that they basically split rally speedrunning in half. And this track was no exception. Both were determined to take the world record. Both were ready to push what was possible. After nearly 2 months, on April 29, 2022, Kimorasa finally pulled off a run that was completely different from the previous record. One notable feature of his run wasn't how the track was cleared, but the car itself. Kimorasa decided to start the race without a preheated engine. This way, the vehicle could sustain much more power before literally exploding. In the current version of BeamNG, this trick has no downside. So long story short, it's free acceleration, which especially matters on tracks like gravel circuit, where every bit of it matters. Kimorasa went all in with this strategy, trying to overtake Hyku through clean driving rather than risky skips. His first and second hairpins went as one would expect, clean and with zero risk involved. But the third one is where the magic happened. The runner decided to cut it in half, and instead of following the full curve, he went straight through the middle toward the road ahead. It worked wonders, and from that point on, the rest of the track was all about precision and maintaining momentum. He finished with a time of 46.857 seconds, while being 2/10 ahead. In the next several weeks, one of them will be completely outclassed. Both Hyku and Kimorasa tried their best by performing literal TAS-level line through hairpins, but sadly for Hyku, their tune was not very well optimized, which is why it looked painfully slow, especially during the chicane, where the runner had to slow down just to avoid losing the attempt altogether. Even though that attempt became a world record, it lasted only 5 days. Kimorasa's response was nothing short of spectacular. Clean, fast and precise. Every corner was nailed with near perfect entry and exit, losing just a hint of time on the drop down. In the end, he was 1.2 seconds faster. And on May 13th, 2022, after nearly 4 years, gravel circuit was finally crushed. Not by some insane skip, but through pure, flawless driving. That's where the majority of runners stopped. Some still tried their luck with the new Scintilla, including Hyku, but it proved too bulky and too fragile for this stage. The competition moved on. Everyone except one person. About 6 months later, Fact returned with a new tune and old strategies. Now, without a preheated engine, but still trusting his signature banking tactics, he managed to perform a miracle. His push through the first hairpin was nothing short of spectacular, and by the second U-turn, he was already 2/10 ahead. He held that advantage all the way to the finish, and with a final time of 45.3 seconds, Fak reignited the fire within the community once again. It wasn't long until Hyku was back on track and grinding. This time around, they made sure to exploit every single advantage they had. Min-maxed FCV Vivace, now with a spoiler and ironed out skips. Every major time save on this track was done by painstakingly performing every hairpin as cleanly as possible, and they knew it. This run features a combination of early turn-in, quick redirect via banking, and finally a long and risky drive through the field. In 7 seconds Hyku managed to perform a near-perfect lineup and precisely draw through the rocks behind the foliage. This skip saved nearly 3 tenths. After that, the fate of the run was sealed. It was to become the next world record. Hyku managed to crush another second barrier and got a neat-looking time of 44.999 seconds. That was it. For the next 3 years, this run would stand as an unshakable pillar, a tribute to the FC Vivace and the skips that still define this track. Many tried to challenge it, but one by one, they all gave up. At least when using normal cars. On the horizon, a very distinct light of rocket engines changed the game forever. JATO thrives on the maps that are short, have long straights and steep turns where insane acceleration of this vehicle can be used to its fullest potential. Gravel circuit should fit perfectly. In fact, this was the first thought of the community as well. Pulp, Scrat and many others tried their best to dethrone Hyku with his Vivace, but to no avail. Typical version of JATO only D-series simply didn't have enough fuel, while JATO plus engine variation was simply too understeery and prone to rolling on every corner. After a bit of theory crafting, the map was simply deemed impossible. The community had moved on once again. Until several days ago, Cerzari got this run. This run is a perfect example of a new toy in the hands of a returning champion. In a week's worth of time, Cerzari managed to destroy the previous record several times, and this was his final push. A run with little to no mistakes and a huge time save of 6 seconds. Funnily enough, the only reason this run was even remotely possible was days upon days of grinding using a very similar JATO setup, but with vastly different tires. After testing and achieving a 2-second lead over the world record, Cerzari decided to switch tactics and use tires similar to those used in the Hyku's world record. Basically, it all came down to rock rolling wheels versus rally wheels. The difference between the two is very distinct. While rally wheels have overall better grip, which vastly improves the first half of the track, they suffer from many small bumps in the second part. On the contrary, big wheels have the opposite. Better sustain on the small bumps while having little to no control during hairpins. The first half of the track was easily the fastest it had ever been, with JATO being ahead on every single checkpoint by at least a second. But it's in the second half where JATO got an insane advantage. Straights near the mountain and to the finish were two places where the incredible acceleration potential of the jet was pushed to the maximum. The runner ran into one big problem. Chicane without big wheels was tough. An optimal path meant that Cerzari was unable to perform drop down and almost lost control afterwards. But no matter, he managed to finish with a time of 38.973 seconds. But that's not where the story ends. After talking with Hyku and Cerzari, both agreed there is still more hidden in this track. The FCVVVs and JATO setups both have untapped potential that could push the record even further. whether through new skips, cleaner driving or smarter suspension tuning. In the end though, one thing is clear, the FCV Vivace will never surpass JATO, even on tracks like this, deemed impossible for JATO by most. As Cerzari said in his world record, the JATO reckoning comes for us all. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this small history piece from the world of BeamNG speedrunning, hit like and subscribe. This will help the channel grow. Hope to see you in the next one.